Hello everyone. I wanted to take a minute and just give you some details about our multimodal project. For some of you, this may be the first time you've been asked to do a project like this. It probably won't be the last time in your college career, but I want to make sure that you're sort of aware and give you some context for how to think through your approach to this particular project. So it's just some general advice as you start to plan and think through your ideas and really get going on both parts of the project. So some good to know information. There is equal weight between the essay and the visual as far as how it's graded. You can't do one and not the other and pass the essay. You really want both of them to be equal quality. So I would recommend really spending an equal amount of time on both. Don't spend 10 hours working on the essay and 30 minutes trying to put together a visual, or vice versa. That's not going to turn out really well. So you want to make sure that both are really your strongest work, all right? As far as the tone of this essay, sometimes there's the idea of like, oh, well, excuse me, we're writing to just the instructor, therefore it's okay to use you. Nah, like that definitely impacts your tone. Think of it more as you are writing to like a group of English professors trying to prove that you have met these standards. You wouldn't use you. So it's not appropriate to use it in this essay either. Try and stay away from it if possible. Again, if you had it once or twice, probably wouldn't even catch a notice. You're using it in a whole bunch of different areas in your essay. It's going to really impact your grade because that's showing a lack of audience awareness. As far as the visual portion of it, think in terms of professional quality, as in something that could be published as is and produced in some format, all right? Now, what I mean by that is like taking a whole bunch of pictures from the internet and just cut and pasting them onto a document and creating some sort of collage that a third grader could create, probably not the most professional look. Now, there are very professional looking collages out there, right? That have clear format. They're organized in a specific way to draw your attention to certain pieces. They're often handcrafted. In other words, not in the sense that you are like handwriting stuff out and using craft paper, but that you have taken the pictures, or the producer has taken the pictures themselves. They have created sort of their own format for putting it together. I do know that there are some actual great apps to help you put together more professional collages, but it's just an example. The same thing with like a YouTube video. There's really professional ways to put together a video, and then there's very informal, almost anyone that has a smartphone could do it type of video. You want to make sure that whatever visual you go with, that it looks professional. If you're doing a comic strip, make it look like it could go in a magazine or in a newspaper or be posted online for an audience. So really think in terms of professional quality when you're working on that visual portion. And really, you should also think in terms of professional quality with your essay too. All right. This is your final. I mean, this is like the time to show off your skills and to produce your best work. So just make sure that it references that, okay, and that it really reflects your best. What I don't want is students turning in projects at the end and being like, oh, well, I could have done this better. Oh, well, I should have done this. No, like, I don't want you to have any of those should haves. I want you to be able to turn something and be like, dang, like, regardless of my grade, that was the best work that I could do. All right, that's the goal. So as far as within your essay and also within the visual, make sure that you're including specific examples to illustrate whatever it is that you're talking about. It is okay in your visual to have a small amount of narrative or wording, like if you want to think of it like captions, okay, or text wrapping. Those are ways you can add in a few words to make something clearer. You can add in symbols. You can do all kinds of things to help the clarity, but make sure you have specific examples because that's really how you're going to show what you're trying to prove. Without specific examples, you're really not going to be able to illustrate your points, right? So in other words, don't tell me that you learned how to write a strong thesis. Show me how you write a strong thesis. Give me an example from a project where your thesis is strong and explain how you came to have that strong thesis, right? So you got to show. Sorry, I'm still getting over this cold. I'm trying not to be listy in the essay. And what I mean by that is it shouldn't be like, well, I learned this and I learned this. I didn't learn this, but I did learn that. I could still work on this. Okay, that's not going to be a format that's appealing to your audience. So as part of your audience member, as your sort of main focus for this essay, really think about how you can stand out from the rest of the crowd. You don't want your essay to sound like every single other student, because that's going to be probably pretty boring to read, right? And so if you get into that sort of trap of starting to list out, well, I learned this, I didn't learn this, that's probably not going to be the best format, okay? It's just really simplistic. Someone could be listy in this essay and have a C essay, but if you're going to just list out what you learned and didn't learn, that's really more of a C. It's not going to be that A or B level. I would like you all to aim for that A or B level, right? Which means think of it in more terms of either like an argument or that you're going to describe your journey in some way, all right? Either of those kind of approaches are going to work better than just listing out what you learned and didn't learn. For both the essay and the visual portion, play to your strengths, right? I would be the first to tell you, I cannot draw. That means if I needed to do a visual, drawing would be the last thing on my list that I would approach, right? Photography is something that I can do pretty well. That would be something that I might consider doing. I might consider doing something with graphic design. I have sort of enough of a graphic design background that I can put some things together. So I could potentially do something with graphic design. I could do sort of different types of like comic strip type pieces. Okay, I have some creative writing background, so that writing portion of those would be something I could handle, along with sort of the more simplistic pictures, right? So really play to your strengths. Don't take on something that is going to be a real struggle for you. And also you can think through how to use skills that you are learning for your different careers. Like I had a student do something like create a blueprint of what the class looked like for them, because they were going into they were in the CAD BIM program, and then they were going to go eventually into engineering and design. That was their goal. So it made a whole lot of sense from their perspective and what they've been studying to do that. I've had other students that wanted to go into productions of some sort, and so they produced a video or they produced some sort of visual that where they were a piece of it, where they were either acting or they were doing something. I had a student write and sort of record himself singing and playing a song because music was his background, and it told the story and the journey of his class, of this class. I have had students do different things surrounding like maps and mapping their progress through the course based on the direction that they wanted to go. The one that I'm particularly thinking of was a history major, and so that made a whole lot of sense in terms of their field. So again, think about your strengths and what works well for you. Now, this is, even though, I'm trying to think how I want to say it. This is about writing to me, but you're really trying to prove in general that you have accomplished and become a stronger level writer, particularly a college level writer. So in order to do that, you got to make sure that you're reflecting the information that we've covered this term, because a lack of being able to reflect that isn't showing that you have an awareness for your audience. So kind of back to that earlier point about staying away from you and your. Not the most appropriate for an academic essay, so something you'd want to stay away from. This is an essay all about you, however, so is it okay to use I? Yeah, it is okay to use I in this essay. So you really have to think about what is appropriate based on the purpose and then who you're writing to about what you include and where it goes. And then just kind of my last point, when you're thinking about the visual portion, the visual can connect to one part of your project or one part of your essay or all of the essay. All right, so sometimes there's like a key component that students really want to hone in on, and so they do that. Others make it a bigger, this is really representative of everything that I've talked about in the essay. Either way is fine, just make sure that the visual is sort of equally complex to your essay, right? That again, it's that college level publishable work. You want to make sure that it is that higher quality. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that is good information to get started with. I'm sure I'll send you out some other little guides and tips along the way. But at least when you're starting to think about it, really think about that equal weight and then kind of how to approach these two so that you are really producing your best quality work for the term while keeping the audience in mind, okay? With that in mind, the last thing that I would say is, as far as like where to begin, some students want to think about the essay first, some want to think about the visual first. You're going to turn in pre-writing, rough drafts of both throughout the whole process, but start with whichever one you feel like you have the best idea with, okay? And then you can kind of work from there. But work on getting something down, getting your ideas down. Don't be so waffly that you don't pick a clear direction and begin this project, all right? So good luck. I look forward to seeing your ideas and your drafts. And always let me know if you have any questions.